Welcome everyone to Charts Focus 1, where we teach you how to work hard and trade smart. All right, we have a very busy week ahead of us, so let's go ahead and start off with the markets. So SPY, let's first take a look on the weekly time frame because we are at a very pivotal point and things are looking very, very bearish. Why? Well, first of all, let's talk about our SMAs here. So last week, we have officially retested and rejected the 10 and the 21 SMAs. Now, obviously, we have retested the 21 SMA, but for the fact that we have closed below both the 10 and the 21 tells me that the momentum on a longer time frame is now to the downside. It's now bearish. And to put a cherry on top of that, we have this weekly 50 SMA, this dark blue line. And if you guys remember, we've been looking at this weekly 50 SMA for all of 2022 because it has been a caveat to any type of an upside break, or at least an attempt to break over this macro descending resistance trend line. And for the fact that we have broken over it in early January and now we have come back below it, tells me that the longer term momentum has also switched to the bearish side. And so long term and short term, we are looking bearish. Now, of course, you guys can't forget about the fact that we have a jump in volume, but again, you guys can forget about this jump in volume because of the fact that this was just from the quarterly OPEX that we had on Friday of last week. So again, on the weekly time frame, things do look bearish, especially if we continue to stay below at least around this 393 level where we're seeing the 21 SMA starting to curl off, right? And it's starting to flatten out. And also, the weekly 50 SMA starting to curl downward as well, which will provide more downward pressure to any type of buying or any type of buyers who are trying to push the price over 393 and back over the weekly 21 SMA so that we can retest the weekly 10 SMA on the way up. So that is what we need to do. But again, there is a lot of selling pressure right now as we have also rejected this 393 level last week and the 21 and the 50 weekly SMAs. So things aren't looking too good. But if you go on the daily time frame, there is a slight possibility that we can get over 393 because of the fact that we've had such a nice bullish day on Thursday of last week and we're able to close over the 200 SMA on the daily time frame. So this is absolutely critical. And for the fact that we are seeing Friday's close to be very, very close to 390 since the closing price was at $389.99. So basically 1 cent away. There is a high probability that we can hold 390 as well on top of the daily 200 SMA as we did on Friday. And so if we're able to hold this current lower high compared to Thursday's low and even Wednesday's low, there's a huge possibility that on even tomorrow that we can see a revisit of 393, especially if we do again hold that 390 level and the daily 200 SMA. But that all depends on whether or not we want to continue the momentum higher as we saw on Thursday. Now, regarding my SMAs as well on the daily time frame, again, we're still bearish, right? And the SMAs on the daily time frame are a little bit more sensitive than the weekly time frame, which is the reason why you see that the 10 and 21 SMAs have already curled to the downside and are still curling downward, providing that upward pressure to any buyers who are trying to push the price up higher and bid the price up higher as well. So, if we can see any type of big volume backed buying, we should be able to see a break out of this current descending level of resistance that we officially confirmed that it exists on Friday after retesting this resistance. We should be able to see at least a maximum, at least, profit target to 396. All right, so with that in mind, again, just focus on the fact that we aren't going to see a lot of buying momentum unless we are close to the official FOMC meeting results on the 22nd. Just focus on the fact that the markets will most likely not go anywhere, especially the day before the 22nd, the 21st, okay? And so make sure you guys aren't trading rashly or entering into new positions rashly. All right, if you guys don't want to trade at all until the FOMC meeting results come out, then that is completely fine. Cash is a position. All right, so just make sure there, you guys are aware of the downside risks that are still at hand because of Friday's close and price action and due to this rejection at this descending level of resistance. And for the fact that we're still seeing a lot of that heavy supply and downward pressure by the SMAs here. Okay, so our first name here is SOXL. So this is the 3 times leveraged ETF for the semiconductors. And this one has been following very closely the NASDAQ, right? And it makes sense since the semiconductor industry is a part of that broader tech industry. Overall, semiconductors have been very strong, especially the leading semiconductor stocks like NVIDIA, AMD, okay? And so it was a no-brainer to see SOXL breaking out like it did on Thursday. But what concerns me on Friday is that we have rejected at a very heavy area of supply, around $17, or specifically 16.90. And so if this high of last week at 16.90 becomes a very heavy area of supply, then there's a potential for this high to be our last pivot high point as we continue to move lower. And from that point forward, we'll start making lower highs. Now, obviously, I don't want to see that as we just had a great breakout out of this descending level of resistance right around 15.50. But there is a possibility that we can see a retest of 15.50 or an outright retest of $15 so that we can also see a retest of this 10 SMA that just crossed over the 21 SMA. And this is indicating a bullish crossover, right? Because if we get a smaller SMA crossing over a larger SMA, that tends to be a very bullish indication. And for the 10 to cross over the 21, that means the short-term momentum is to the bullish side. So that's the reason why I gave you guys these long-term entries. Now, if you're able to hold over $16, all right, there's definitely a good chance that you can see an earlier type of entry at $16. But again, if you just want to wait and wait out any type of volatility between $15 and $16 or around $17, okay, you guys can always get a more confirmed entry point once we see the price breaking over $17. Now, again, if we do come back down to $15 to retest that previous area of resistance and turn it into a new level of support, then we will see that lower highs that I just talked about on this name. Okay, so our second name here is Amazon. So Amazon on the weekly time frame. I want to look at the weekly first. And the reason for that is that, well, we have a huge bullish engulfing candlestick. I mean, this price action from last week should have took out a lot of shorts who were short for the past almost 5 weeks here. And so if that is true, okay, there's a good chance that we can see a continuation to the upside as we saw, for example, in this candlestick here, right? And the following week, we saw a little tiny pullback, right? A very small pullback. And then we saw a massive run up higher. And from that point forward, we continued to move up higher and higher and higher. And ultimately, we hit a high of $114. And that was our last previous high pivot point. And then we started to make lower highs from that point forward. So for Amazon, I expect us to see a similar price action as we saw right over here. So I expect us to at least have a nice pullback. And if we do, on a weekly time frame, I want us to see a retest of at least $97. But if we do continue to move lower and make lower highs as we saw last time over here, I expect us to come back down to retest 95.50 and then hold. And if we don't hold this area, that will be a huge problem. First of all, the reason for that is that if I take out the candlesticks here, okay, I fully expect the 21 SMA to start curling upward. And if we do start to curl upward, if the price moves lower to retest previous areas of resistance, we should see a bounce at the 21 SMA, and it should coincide with this 95.50 level once we start to see that 21 SMA curling up higher. And so if you go back to the daily time frame, you guys can clearly tell that this 95.50 to around 97 is a very heavy level of resistance. It was a previous area of resistance as shown here. So if we don't hold at least 95.50, if we do come back down here to retest it, then we will have a problem and we will start to move back down and we'll start a new downtrend. And this will officially be a failed breakout. So with that in mind, again, I fully expect us to move to the upside and continue to move to the upside. And so I give you guys a entry point here of over 100. Or again, if you guys just want that more of a bullish confirmation, just look for a break over the previous high of the day, which was Friday's high. And Friday's high was at $100.66. So if you guys want to just round up, you guys can wait until the price decides to move over $101. That will give you guys more confidence as well to take a long trade to the upside. Now, if we do see that, then I expect us to see a nice rise over to $104, which will be our first profit target. And eventually, I want us to retest the daily 200 SMA, which is currently residing around $108. Okay, so our third name here is AEHR. And so we have a very, very nice bullish chart pattern here. So we have a bull flag or a descending channel. So both of them are bullish chart patterns, so you don't really need to figure out which one it is exactly, because again, they're both bullish chart patterns telling you that, yes, the price trend is currently in a nice consolidation range for a potential move to the upside. So first of all, if you go on the weekly time frame, okay, I had to give you guys this warning, all right? AEHR has risen exponentially to the upside, and we are basically overextended to the upside. And on the weekly time frame, the 50 SMA is very, very far away from the price action, and that concerns me a lot. And so we've been seeing a continuous higher high and higher lows. All right, that's great. That's a textbook uptrend where we have higher highs and higher lows. But again, at some point, we can see that trend failing, especially if we do decide to break this higher low uptrend that we've been making since at least middle of 2022. But again, we've been seeing this crazy rise in share price since that initial breakout, since it was a penny stock back in mid-2021. And so there's a huge possibility of this bull flag or descending channel to fail this week, as we have also rejected the descending level of resistance right over here for at least the fourth time. And so it all comes down to whether or not the bulls are strong enough to break us out of this descending level of resistance, which is the reason why I gave you guys 2 long entry points as well. So if we do decide to come back down and at least hold around $31, so this is our daily support here, a very critical area of support, all right? And if we do decide to hold this and if you bounce away, that will be our first early entry. But again, if we do not want to deal with any type of volatility as we're continuously ranging back and forth and oscillating between these 2 descending trend lines that are forming this overall bull flag or descending channel, you guys can always wait until we can go over this descending level of resistance and get a possible entry at $34, as this is a intraday level of resistance that you guys can see on the 2-hour time frame. So if you guys see right here, $34, right? We've been using it as a level of support and as a level of resistance multiple times in the past as we continue to oscillate between these 2 descending trend lines. Okay, so our 4th name here is NVIDIA. So as you guys saw on the newsletter, NVIDIA is potentially a great day trade for us. And that's the reason why we're looking at the 15-minute time frame. And so why are we looking at the 15-minute time frame? Well, first of all, the daily time frame doesn't really show us much other than the fact that we've had a very nasty close on Friday with this inverted hammer candlestick. And that gave me a good hint as to where this name could go on Monday or even on Tuesday. So I'm betting that we can see a nice push lower from this intraday level of support at $256.70. And that's the reason why I gave you guys a short entry to the downside once we break below 256.50, which is a whole number level. And so this whole number level, if we see a great break below this whole number level, we should be able to see that small gap that we've made here, okay, finally being filled. And once we're able to see that, we'll see a retest of the 15-minute 50 SMA. And the 50 SMA is currently sitting at $255. And so I expect us to retest this 15-minute 50 SMA around $255. And if we do not hold this 50 SMA, which I don't think it will, we can come back down to retest the previous intraday level of resistance around $253.50. And again, if there is enough selling pressure, my maximum profit target for this potential day trade or even an overnight swing trade will be $251, which was a previous intraday level of support on Thursday. Now, if we go back to the daily time frame, okay, NVIDIA is very, very, very overextended, right? This is a very, very overextended chart. And so that's the reason why, first of all, I gave you guys this short trade to the downside. And there is a possibility for NVIDIA to fall further than 251. In fact, there is a huge possibility that we can see a retest of the most recent major level of resistance on the daily time frame at 242. And so depending on how this potential day trade goes, we can very much hold that day trade to turn it into a swing trade as we look for a retest of 242. Okay, so with that, here is our last name. So Apple, okay. So Apple is looking very, very strong, even though the S&P 500 SPY is looking quite weak. And this is all due to NASDAQ's performance on Thursday and on Friday. And so Apple here has been consolidating. In fact, we are seeing a potential inverted head and shoulders chart pattern. So obviously the right shoulder hasn't been formed yet, which is the reason why there's a potential for this week to be the week where we see that formation of that right shoulder. as we see here, we have completed the inverted left shoulder and then the inverted head, but there is no existence of the right shoulder just yet. However, I'm not going to fully expect to see a complete right shoulder, an inverted right shoulder, because we have such a big catalyst coming up, which will affect the broader markets and eventually Apple. And so if you're able to see at least a hold of 153.50, which is the reason why I give you guys that first long entry point, and if you do bounce at this first early entry point at 153.50, then we should be able to see a nice rise back up to at least 156. And there's a potential for us to range trade between these two levels. Now, I love the fact that we have also already gotten a confirmation for a short-term uptrend as we saw the 10 SMA crossing over the 21 SMA. And if we do continue this momentum higher on the short-term perspective here, we will ultimately see a golden cross where we are seeing the 50 SMA currently curling up higher to reach that conversion point with the daily 200 SMA. And again, this will all come down to the price continuously moving up higher with the momentum still staying bullish. And if we do that, if we continue to make higher highs and higher lows, we will see that golden cross being made as the 50 SMA crosses over the 21 SMA. And so Apple here, very, very clear-cut levels, right? 156, 153.50. Again, if we do lose 53.50, there is a potential for us to go short on this one as well, and a possible retest of 150, which is our next major level of support, as it's a very heavy level of support as well. Okay, and remember, 150 is a very critical whole number level as well, because we've been basically consolidating around 150 since February of this year. All right, so that is it for this video. If this TA video was insightful, make sure you leave a like down below. And if you aren't subscribed yet, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Good luck, and I'll see you all tomorrow morning.